Boston Bruins just can't afford to drop points like they did in their last two games before the Four Nations face-off break.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, February 10th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's episode, we're going to take a look back at the loss on Saturday to the Vegas Golden Knights, the stats, storylines, and signals from that one, as well as all the latest on the black and gold. Before we get into that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes, at Ian C. McLaren. The Bruins are on a break right now. They are not practicing again until February 18th, and that's because the Four Nations face-off is taking place over the next couple of weeks. Team Canada gathering to practice in Montreal here on Monday morning, with the Bruins captain, Brad Marchand, being a participant there. So it'll be cool to see who he lines up with. Before the break, the Bruins had a big opportunity to pick up a couple points against Bruce Cassidy, Jack Eichel, and the Vegas Golden Knights. But unfortunately, for the second game in a row, they were unable to pick up even a single point, despite leading heading into the third period. It happened to them on Thursday against the New York Rangers. And then it happened again here on Saturday against Vegas. The Bruins were up 3-2 heading into the third period. And despite having the eventual game or the game winner wiped off because of a goaltender interference call, the Vegas Knights were able to regroup and still score on that same power play opportunity late in the third period. Thomas Hertl with his 21st of the season to give Vegas the win. And, entering that game on, I guess it was Wednesday against the Rangers, the Bruins had a record of 16-0-4 when entering the third period with a lead this season. We saw them give one away a couple weeks ago in Ottawa. That was probably one of the worst losses of the season, despite the fact that they were able to pick up a point. But these last two, just completely demoralizing in terms of trying to stay afloat in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Joe Sacco, heading into these 4 games before the break, said they were treating it like a playoff series. They went 2-2 and were unable to even pick up a single point in the past 2 games to really put themselves behind when it comes to making time up or making points up in the standings. Nikita Zadorov said it's do or die for the Bruins coming out of the break. They wasted the last 2 games, 4 points. It could cost them. It could not. They'll have to see. The Bruins on Saturday went 0-for-1 on the power play. They killed only 2 of 4 penalties against, and just some unnecessary breakdowns that really hurt this team once again. They could have gone into this break on a 4-game winning streak, perhaps at least a 4-game point streak. And those points left on the table could really come back to bite them here in the coming weeks. Brad Marchand, he said he thinks they can play with anybody. The difference in the game is very small margins, small details. Just have to clean it up a little bit. They were unable to do so. against Vegas in a game that they were leading 3-1 at one point, thanks to goals from Brad Marchand, Nikita Zadorov, and then Morgan Geekie in the second period. But then Zach Whitecloud scored late in the second. Pavel Dorofeyev scored to tie things up 5 minutes into the third. And then the Bruins again. Penalties, always a problem for this team. And it was a Pavel Zacha slashing call against Dorofeyev that led to the game-winning power play goal for Vegas. They scored twice on that opportunity. Like I mentioned, Dorofeyev had looked to have put the team up. That goal was wiped out. Bruins were given new life there, but could not take advantage. And they attempted to pull the goalie. David Pastrnak was called for hooking against Brent Howden to prevent an empty net goal, and the Bruins ended the game on the penalty kill as well. So overall, just a very disappointing end to it's not the first half of the season where they've only got 25 games left. Jeremy Swayman after the game said he thought they did a good job of managing Vegas's pushes. Even if they had breakdowns, they still got out of them alive, and that's something they can build on and use to their advantage when stuff doesn't go their way. It's something they need to control, and he has no doubt in this group that they will pull things together and jump into a playoff spot. It's going to be a real uphill battle, though, because there are so many teams in the mix in the Eastern Conference. Marchand said Vegas pushed. The Bruins sat back too much in the third period. They knew they would be better in the second period and the third period, and they were. The Bruins got caught sitting back a little bit, and a team like that will make you pay. Vegas indeed did make the Bruins pay, and the big storyline in this one was the Bruins coughing up a third period lead for the second game in a row, and that's just something you can't have happen when you are on the outside looking in of a playoff spot, and every point is so precious. Coming up, we'll take a look at the stats from this game and the updated standings, where they sit in relation to the competition in the Eastern Conference. We'll also take a look at some of the signals to take away from this one as the Bruins kind of disperse to go on vacation or participate in the Four Nations face-off. We'll discuss all that here as the podcast continues. Super Bowl 59 is behind us. I hope you all enjoyed the game and that your bets hit big. Now our attention turns to the NBA, where action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today, and FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I mentioned earlier, Canada is taking to the ice in Montreal this morning for their first practice, and our boy Brad Marchand is skating on a line with Seth Jarvis of the Carolina Hurricanes and Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is a line that can score and also make life very miserable for the opposition, as Jarvis and Marchand have a lot of edge to their game. You also have Mark Stone playing with Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid with Mitch Marner and Sam Reinhart. And then, not to be forgotten here, you have Sam Bennett on this team as well with Brad Marchand. He's playing with Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, getting pretty excited about this tournament. And we'll be keeping an eye on all our Boston Bruins in this one. But let's take a look at some stats from the game on Saturday. Brad Marchand with his goal, his 20th of the season, and he reached that milestone for the 14th season to tie Patrice Bergeron for second most in NHL history. He also has 12 straight seasons with at least 20 goals. He would need 2 more in black and gold in order to tie Johnny Busick, 3 more in order to set the record. Is that possible? It's not impossible. Of course, a lot of it depends on if he remains a member of the Boston Bruins around the trade deadline. I still expect that he will. But huge milestone there for Brad Marchand, and congrats to him. We've been so blessed to have him in black and gold, playing at such a high level for so long. Also, in this one, I mentioned Nikita Zadorov hit the back of the net, his 3rd goal of the season. He played one of his better games in black and gold, to be honest, using the body. He also recorded an assist in this one. And, well, actually, did he? I can't remember. Anyways, I thought he played very, very well for the Boston Bruins on the blue line. Yes, he did have a goal and an assist, 2 points to lead all Bruins in this one. Nobody else had more than 1 point. Marchand with his 20th. David Pastrnak kept his point streak alive with an assist. And Morgan Geekie getting back on the board with a goal. Now, Vegas outshot the Bruins in this one, 38-24. They also had more success on the power play. 2 for 4. The Bruins went 0 for 1, which is extremely unfortunate, of course. In terms of shots on goal, David Pastrnak led the way with 5. Elias Lindholm with 4. Charlie Coyle, Morgan Geekie, each with 3 apiece. From the back end, Zadorov had 2 shots, including that 1 goal. He played a team high 25 minutes and 55 seconds as well, just 30 seconds more than Charlie McAvoy in this one. Jeremy Swayman got the start. He made 34 saves on 38 shots for an .895 save percentage, below his season average. So he dropped that a little bit heading into the break. He will be playing net for Team USA, or at least he's on the roster with Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger. Not quite sure how much he will actually get to play, but we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Now, the big stats to take a look at here are the point percentages and points. Right now, in the Eastern Conference, the Bruins sit 10th in points with 60. They are in a tie with Columbus, who's in 9th, but Columbus has a better point percentage and a much better goal differential. When you line these teams up by point percentage, the Bruins are actually only 16, 15, 14, 13. They're 11th right now, behind the New York Rangers by 0.01%. You have the Washington Capitals in first place, followed by the Carolina Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs. That's your top 4. The Tampa Bay Lightning are at 60% in terms of point percentage to round out the top 5. Then you have New Jersey, Detroit, Ottawa, Columbus, and the Rangers, who overtook the Bruins in point percentage because they won their final game and the Bruins lost their final 2. When it comes to goal differential, the Bruins are there's only 3 teams in the Eastern Conference with worse goal differentials than the Boston Bruins. The Flyers at -30, Canadiens -31, the Penguins at -37, and the Bruins at -25. You have 7 teams right now with positive goal differentials. They're all in playoff spots. The Red Wings right now are in the final wildcard spot. They have a -11 goal differential. The Blue Jackets, 1 point back, with a negative 2 goal differential. So you can see how tight things are here in the Eastern Conference. The Bruins are only 2 points back of the Ottawa Senators for the first wildcard spot. But unfortunately, the Bruins have played a conference high 57 games. They've only got 25 games remaining on the schedule, whereas a team like the Red Wings, they have 27 games. The Lightning have 27 games remaining. The Islanders and Rangers have 27 games remaining. So it's going to be an uphill battle for the Bruins coming out of the break in order to make up some ground there. And you can see how important it was for those points not to be picked up here in the last couple of games. And unfortunately, their March schedule is not going to be very easy. They have a bunch of road games on deck. In fact, in the month of March, they only have 4 home games in the whole month, with 10 on the road. So 4 out of 14 games to be played at home for the Boston Bruins in the month of March, including a Western road trip that will take them to Vegas, San Jose, LA, Anaheim. Our boy Don Sweeney has some decisions ahead of him here as to whether he should make some trades or stand pat or try to make some acquisitions. We'll look at some of the signals to be taken away from this game here as the podcast continues. Picture yourself as a business owner who just realized you need to hire someone like yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates fast. You can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. All you have to do is go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Boston Bruins. Terms and conditions apply, but when the pressure's on and every day without the right person is a setback, Indeed is all you need. All right, so the Bruins are off here for a couple weeks. Their next game is not until February 22nd against the Anaheim Ducks, I believe. And we have a few players taking part in the Four Nations face-off, including Brad Marchand, Team Canada, Jeremy Swayman, Charlie McAvoy, Team USA, and Elias Lindholm, who will be representing Team Sweden. So on the podcast over the next couple of weeks, we certainly will be keeping up to date with all of those players and how they are performing at this makeshift kind of best on best tournament that may or may not be compelling. We'll have to see exactly how things shake out. Hopefully there is no one who is injured here from a Boston Bruins perspective. Their best player, of course, David Pastrnak, not partaking in the event because his country not being represented. Now, a couple of things to note here when it comes to the Bruins. They did send Matt Poitras and Mike Callahan down to Providence so that they can get some game action here over the break. Other Bruins will be free to go on vacation. Again, they will be off until next Tuesday when they will recommence practice. They don't get the whole 2 weeks off, get week, 10 days, refresh, and then they can pick things back up here next week. But Callahan, Poitras, staying active, and I think that's the right decision, especially for Poitras. He's been very good as of late for the Bruins since being recalled, but you don't want him to lose that momentum. He's still a young guy. 7 points in 12 games. No goals for the Bruins in that stretch, though. And don't want him to take any steps back here. Keep it going, full throttle, down in the AHL. Now, as we turn our attention to the trade deadline, which is now less than a month away, there are certainly some candidates on this team to be moved and some guys who have gone pretty quiet, which could hurt their trade values. You have a guy like Trent Frederick, who at his last 16 games has 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points. You have Justin Brazeau, who was scratched on Saturday in favor of Oliver Wahlstrom, who's got 1 goal, 2 assists over his last 16 games. Wahlstrom himself only has 1 goal, 1 assist in 11 games as a member of the Boston Bruins. Cole Koepke, John Beecher, who started the season hot as the fourth line. They each only have 1 goal apiece over their last 18 and 12 games, respectively. 18 for Beecher, 12 for Koepke. So the Bruins, bottom 6, not producing very much as of late. And all of those guys, well, mostly Frederick and Brazeau, certainly are candidates to be moved. We've heard the Bruins are taking calls on the likes of Brandon Carlo, maybe Charlie Coyle. Those guys could be attractive, seeing as they have additional seasons on their contracts. So you'd be getting not just 1 playoff run, but 2 out of them. I would not be mad if either of those 2 guys were moved, to be honest. I think the Bruins do indeed need to get younger. They need to get faster. They need to restock the pipeline in terms of prospects and picks. Certainly seems as though this, I don't want to say a lost season, but I want to say it is one in which you can take a step back, realize that you just don't have what it takes to contend this season. You may not even have what it takes to get into the playoffs right now. So you might as well do what you can to recoup some assets and make up for having gone all in several times in recent seasons. So those are kind of the signals that we can take away. These last 2 games, incredibly disappointing, and those dropped points will really hurt the Bruins. If they had picked up 4 points in those games, right now they would be sitting not comfortably, but they would be in a playoff spot ahead of Ottawa and Detroit with 64 points. Instead, they're 27, 24, and 6, 60 points in 57 games, a .526 point percentage, and a -25 goal differential. All the relevant stats point to this not being a serious team. They are, when it comes to goals for per game, they rank 25th. When it comes to goals allowed per game, they rank 24th. On the power play, they are 30th. On the penalty kill, they rank 25th. These are all bottom of the league kind of numbers and do not suggest at all that you should be buying or trying to add to this group. Do what you can to regroup, to recoup, and make the best of a very difficult year. Hope for a smoother offseason, smoother training camp, and better days coming as early as next season. All right, that's it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope you all had a great weekend, enjoying the Super Bowl. We all watched that as a family last night up until the halftime show where the boys took off, but we kept watching. I was very happy to see the Eagles win, and in such convincing fashion. We went to a hockey game on Friday, Guelph Storm versus, who were they playing? North Bay Battalion. The Storm were down 4-0 at one point, came all the way back to tie it, then killed off a 5-minute major, and then won in overtime. It was a very exciting game, and glad we stayed till the end. And I went and saw Dogman with our youngest and a nephew over the weekend. Pretty entertaining movie as well. Anyways, that is it for Locked On Boston Bruins for Monday, February 10th. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you here again on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.